Deep-sea creatures are undergoing a mysterious evolution. They are evolving right at this very moment. Some of these creatures are incredibly grotesque. For example, take a look at this squid that lives in shallow waters compared to its species residing in the deep sea. Despite being the same species, this squid has evolved into a blood-sucking vampire. The reason for this evolution is that deep-sea creatures had to adapt to survive. So is it really necessary for deep-sea creatures to evolve into such frightening forms to survive? Well, kind of. I'll explain why and how in detail later. But you know what? Not all fish are just scary. Some species are also weird and bizarre, like this sarcastic fringehead. Although it looks as small as a 2-liter bottle, when it opens its mouth, it becomes so large that it could swallow a human's head. And among all these bizarre creatures, the most unusual one looks like someone has plucked an eyeball from a one-eyed puppet and swallowed it. So, is the weirdness of deep-sea creatures also a survival strategy? Because if you think this is just due to harsh environments, let me tell you, land animals also live in harsh environments. For instance, cockroaches live in our homes, deserts, and even the Amazon rainforest. In fact, they've even been found in volcano craters. But among all these cockroaches, their sizes vary greatly. So, what unique trait makes creatures at greater depths evolve into such grotesque and bizarre forms? Interestingly, some researchers found answers to these questions. Back in 2018, a group of Australian researchers was exploring fishing spots in the Antarctic deep sea using an underwater camera when one of them noticed a decapitated chicken swimming in the water. Finding a chicken in the middle of the Antarctic Sea was quite strange, and the fact that it had no head made it even more alarming. The researcher hurriedly informed their leader, Dirk Welsford. At first, Dirk couldn't believe it, but when he saw it with his own eyes, he was also amazed. The chicken looked like a Christmas turkey, and its body had only one opening through which it breathed, ate, and expelled digested food. Can you believe that? But even more bizarre was that it had small fish living in this opening, eating leftover food. Naturally, Dirk and his team became very curious as they had never seen such a strange thing in their entire careers. So during their research, they repeatedly looped the footage of this creature, and one of them said, "Hey, this looks like a sea cucumber." I mean, a sea cucumber that's usually found on shallow water beaches. How is this possible? Because you can clearly see there's a world of difference between a sea cucumber and this newly discovered creature. So how did the researchers reach this conclusion? The researchers concluded that there's only one species in the ocean with a single opening and gelatinous soft skin, and that's the sea cucumber. That's why they had no trouble identifying it. But how can there be such a drastic difference between the same species? Dirk's investigation led him to discover that this sea cucumber lived at a depth equivalent to Mount Everest in the ocean, where food is not easily available. So, unlike normal sea cucumbers, it developed a way to swim further to find food, making it look different from shallow water sea cucumbers. After discovering the truth about this case, Dirk wondered if there were other creatures in the deep sea that had evolved in similarly bizarre ways. During further research, they found a crab. Yes, a crab with only one leg that extended from a human chest and ended at the legs. Looking at this crab, Dirk thought it was the largest crab ever. But he was wrong. In deep waters, the largest crabs of this species have only one leg as long as an adult human's height. This crab was just an average-sized crab. In fact, due to its size, it could easily prey on a human child. And that's why after sightings, people started calling them Crabzilla. You might remember the story of the Thalassian monster that used to drag sailors from ships into the depths. This story was also inspired by this crab. So Dirk realized that the survival game in the deep sea is different, something that needed deeper understanding. This led him to the third most bizarre creature, one with sharp, pointed teeth all the way up to its throat. This creature evolved from a simple eel, and the changes were due to its deep sea habitat. So what survival strategy do such fish have in deep waters? In shallow waters, eels generate electric currents throughout their bodies to escape predators, while in the deep sea, this eel species is a predator itself. Thus, it was crucial for them to prevent prey from escaping their mouths, leading to the development of inward-facing teeth up to their throats. Now, you might be wondering how exactly evolution happens and how long it takes. To answer these questions, MIT researcher Susan Lindquist conducted a unique study. She studied Mexican tetrafish, specifically because millions of years ago, some of these fish moved from shallow waters to deep-sea caves, losing their eyes in the process and looking different from their species. Susan hypothesized that if she could understand the cause and effect of this adaptation, she might discover why deep-sea creatures are so bizarre and scary. She suspected that the ASP90 protein, which causes mutations in animal genes, might be involved. She tested this by injecting chemicals into shallow water fish and manipulating their ASP90 proteins. Surprisingly, in the next generation, some fish had larger eyes while others had eyes that had disappeared. Similar to their deep-sea species, they observed an 83% difference in eye size, confirming that the Mexican tetras that went to the deep sea had variations in their ASP90 proteins. However, the next question was why this evolution happened at that particular time. There's no exact way to know this without a time machine, but we can provide some possible explanations. For example, deep-sea environments are darker, reducing the chances of fish being seen and making it more important for them to detect movement in the water. As a result, natural selection favored fish that developed senses for detecting movement over those with eyes. If eyes don't benefit survival in the deep sea, why do some fish still have them? The concept here is that ASP90 proteins cause mutations in various genes, not just eye-related ones. Some fish evolved to change their skin color to black or red for camouflage, as red light scatters and disappears first in deep waters, making these colors effectively invisible. This is why many deep-sea creatures studied are either red or black. To answer the original question, it's also a matter of evolutionary exceptions. For instance, humans have a tailbone that serves no purpose, yet we inherit it. Similarly, some traits persist in future generations, even if they don't provide benefits. This might be the case with fish eyes, which persist as vestigial organs. So, has the mystery been completely solved? Not exactly. When Susan delved deeper, she discovered that the weird and scary appearance of deep-sea creatures is not solely due to ASP90 proteins. Past studies suggest that deep-sea animals produce special substances that make their structures look strange. University of London researcher Abby Chapman found that, just like tent rods or frames have PJI structures that protect them in high-pressure, deep-sea environments, deep-sea creatures' cells also have unique structures to withstand extreme pressure. This adaptation is visible in their physical appearance. Some fish, however, use alternate mechanisms to adjust their body shapes to minimize pressure on each inch of their bodies. The ideal shape to withstand such pressure, according to physics, is a sphere, which is why deep-sea sea cucumbers look like inflated balloons. As for these fish, their lower jaws have evolved unusually to scoop up food that falls from surface-dwelling fish, making their mouths larger to gather more food at once. All in all, deep-sea creatures have had to adapt their genetics, cellular structures, and shapes to survive in the harsh deep-sea environment, resulting in their unique and strange appearances. But as we analyze these creatures, you might have noticed that they don't seem so weird after a while. So why do we initially find things scary or weird? It's because our brains associate unfamiliar things with risk and danger. Deep-sea creatures, being so unfamiliar, evoke fear, but repeated exposure can reduce this fear, making them less intimidating. So now you know why deep-sea creatures appear scary. And as for the massive sizes of deep-sea creatures, I've explained that in detail in an old video which you can watch here. I highly recommend it as one of our most interesting videos. If you learned something new from this video, please give it a like, and if you have more questions, subscribe to the channel as we'll bring answers to your queries.